Yeah.
Mo touched on it. Once you were done with NASA, you moved over to SpaceX.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Now you're with Big Elon.
Mm-hmm.
The man's a legend. Like, I was just telling my friend, I think he's the most influential person alive and probably in the last, century.
Well, people are still trying to figure him out. But what's going on with SpaceX, a lot lot of people think that he's
I'm still trying to figure out. I used to have a Monday meeting with him every week. And
Really?
Yeah, he was my boss, and I still can't quite figure him out.
You gotta tell us, like, how is he, like, as a person? Because some people think he's, like, weird or socially awkward. Obviously, he has his quirks.
Yeah.
I mean, genius, of course, but...
He is super smart. Technically, the thing that impresses me is not so much his depth in any one subject. The impressive thing about him is the massive breadth. Yeah, the number of subjects that he can talk about at an extremely competent high level. Like we'll have meetings and he'll have an esoteric discussion about with material scientists about some crazy technique for welding some really rare alloys. And then he'll turn around and have a conversation about, exactly what the processing architecture should be in the electronics. And he'll go back and forth and at that level of competence. And I've never seen anybody I've seen people who are incredibly intelligent in their field. Never seen anybody that can go back and forth like that.
Yeah.
Knowledge.
Yeah.
I mean, there's Neuralink, there's the brain, which is like one of the most complicated subjects.
Tesla, which obviously makes
infrastructure with Boring Company.
Yep.
Cars, yeah. I mean, it's freaking insane.
A lot of people think Tesla is just really a battery company for storing energy,
but still
electric, rather than cars. Because some people think with SpaceX, the whole idea is that he's just going to go and mine stuff in space, right?
Now, so what drives him? This I can answer. So this I have figured out. What really drives him is achieving this goal of making human life multiplanetary. He's serious about that, and he tweets about it, and people think he's kidding.
Yeah,
he's not kidding. So I'll tell you a story that kind of illustrates the way he thinks. So when I first showed up there at SpaceX, it was in the early days, and 60 Minutes came in to do a piece on it, and I was brand new, so they trotted me out. So I was interviewed by Scott Pelley, and Elon was interviewed. And in my interview, I said, they asked me, why did I stop being an astronaut, give up like this really awesome gig where you get paid to go to the gym, to work here where you don't get paid to go to the gym, and come to SpaceX. Oh, there we go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That was
Is that the early days?
That was a very early days.
Looks like young Elon.
Yeah, that was probably like 2012, I'm guessing.
Looks like it was taken 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So anyway, so he asked me, why did I do that? And I said, well, if you're a young engineer and you had the opportunity to go work with Howard Hughes back in the day,
you do it.
Wouldn't you do it? And Scott Pelley looked at me like a deer in the headlights. I don't think he understood what that was like at the time. Yeah. But that's what my answer. And then as soon as I said that, I was like, oh man, I just made like a major error.
No.
Because things didn't end that well for Howard,
What happened to him?
Oh, he was like a complete nut job in
really?
the end of his life. Yeah, he was a germaphobe and just a hermit, and like he grew his fingernails that like this long. And
wow.
So you compared Elon to this guy?
In jars. Yeah. And because I was thinking about Howard in at the height of his career when he created TWA Airlines, and he built the Spruce Goose and the H-1 and all these incredible airplanes, and he did some really amazing things. And he built up this massive industry as well. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, great. I just compared him to that. So then it took a while. It was like months later. We were at Florida for meetings with NASA about trying to get this commercial crew contract. And my job was to lead the proposal team. And Elon came and he helped us present our case to try to get this like $2.4 billion contract, okay? And so we left the meeting, and we're driving back to the airport to get into his jet to fly back here to L.A.
Good deal.
And it's just me and him in the car. I'm driving this rental car, and I got him sitting in the passenger seat. And so I said, hey, I figured this would be a good time to bring it up, right, because it's kind of private. So I said, hey boss, just remember that time we did that thing for 60 minutes? Ha, ha, ha. And you remember... I compared you to Howard Hughes. I just want you to know I was comparing you to the young dashing, starlet dating, aviator Howard Hughes, not the old, decrepit, peeing in jars, germaphobe Howard Hughes. Ha ha ha, hoping he would laugh. And he's just silent,
Oh,
Pain.
And what he'll do, when you ask a question, he, no matter how ridiculous, or even if you intended it as a joke like I did, he will actually give it careful consideration. He'll focus on it. And he stared out like I remember staring like forward through the windshield of the car, looking off into space basically, with this blank look on his face. I knew he was thinking about it. I'm like, uh-oh.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Pain.
So after a few minutes of that, he turns to me and he says, I don't think that's an apt comparison. So I said, okay.
Like just straight face.
That was a cool, that was a cool ride back. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, just curious why.
He said nothing in between you saying that and that. That's the first thing he said back to you?
Yes.
That's weird.
So
That's
so I had to ask why.
Yeah.
I needed a follow-up there. So I said, I'm just curious, why is that? And he said, well, nothing that Howard ever did fundamentally changed the course of human history in the sense that he built this H-1 racer, and yes, it was kind of used by Japan as a model for the Zero aircraft in World War II, but it never really, it was a one-off. It was a racer. It wasn't something that was mass-produced. He said, we don't send our cargo across the Atlantic Ocean today in giant wooden airplanes like the Spruce Goose. It never fundamentally caught on. So his objection was not about like the fact that I was comparing him to this creepy old geezer.
It's that he didn't change humanity, and Elon thinks that he is going to do exactly that.
He's already done it.
That if he doesn't have, something, he thinks that if he can be the one that enables us to become a multiplanetary species, then he's fundamentally altered the arc of human history, and that's what he wants to do. And that's why it's important to him. It's not about making money or building yachts or anything like that. That's just a means to the end.
Do you think he'll do it?
Yeah, I think he's got a good shot, actually. Yeah, I think a lot is riding on Starship and how it does, and if it's successful. But he certainly is doing everything he can to make that our future.
Would you go if it was in our lifetime?
To Mars?
To Mars?
Yeah, the thing. Elon thinks in our lifetime people are going to be shooting off to Mars.
I mean, what's the process, right? Because like first you have to send a few people, and then like how do you start colonizing? Like, do you guys talk about
give birth to the first Martian, right?
I talked to him about that. That was interesting. So the way he's very good at what he calls a first principles approach of thinking, where he will step back and not try to just compare it to what's been done before, but think about it from what is possible by the laws of physics standpoint, right? And so the way he thought about that was, initially it's going to be a small group. The first goes, and more, and the idea is to get more and more people committed to living up there and staying, and because the thought is that in order, what the ultimate objective is not just to plant a flag, leave some footprints, and skedaddle.
To colonize, right?
Right, and not only colonize, but have a self-sustaining colony, right? So if one day the ships from Earth stop coming,
whatever, they're
going to be okay. Right, because that's the whole point is it's about survival of the species, getting redundancy, because there's been a certain number of extinction events in the Earth's history. There's bound to be another one. We don't know when that's going to happen.
It will happen at some point.
Yeah. So he thinks about this like, okay, so how many people do you need? So okay, well, how big of a city do you need, such that everything you need, not everything you might want, but everything you need, is there. That you don't have to go to the big city for anything. So you need like a hospital with oncologists and
dentists
and orthopedists. You need infrastructure. You need you need an electrical power system that can support a whole city. You need that, and you need people that maintain it. You need pizza, because you need pizza.
Yeah.
You need, if you think about all those things that you need and really drill down, you need some kind of police force. You need all these things. Yeah. So, you figure, well, okay, if you live in a small town, you don't have all that stuff. But if you live in a town of a couple 100,000 people, okay, maybe you have a minor league baseball team. You don't have, the Dodgers, but you at least have some sports to watch. You got something that you don't have to go to the big city to see a professional sporting event. Yeah, a couple 100,000 people probably.
Wow.
So he figures, okay, that's how many we need to have up there before they can really be self-sustaining.
What's his timeline? You think,
Wants it in
100
our
years,
lifetime.
200 years?
Before he dies, he wants to see it.
No, he'll admit that he doesn't think we'll get there in his lifetime.
He doesn't?
No, because this is to get to that point where you have hundreds of thousands of people up there. It's going to take more than his lifetime.
Yeah.
He admits that.
He wants to put people on Mars within his lifetime.
He
2030, right?
He wants to see us on a trajectory towards that day.
Okay.
So that we're on that path, and that he won't live to see the end, but that we got a couple hundred up there and it's growing, and we're headed towards a lot more.
Ooh. You should be the leader of Mars. That'd be cool.
I was gonna say, yeah. Could you become the
What
president?
if he was like, Gary, we want you to spearhead this, and just rule Mars, and then you run the whole thing.
I was thinking, like, if you send people to Mars and you leave them there, like, who's the jurisdiction? What laws do you follow? You follow American law because you're Americans that got sent there?
Isn't it like
What about the British?
maritime law in space?
In right now on space station stuff, yeah, it's kind of like based on maritime law. There is a.
But you're in the Earth's orbit. What about when you go to Mars?
It still, I think, would be kind of the same unless it's claimed by a certain country.
Right.
But if it's claimed by a corporation, then
right.
And I spoke to him about that too. His basic feeling on that was he wants it as close to a direct democracy, one person, one vote as possible.
Okay.
So kind of like the ancient Greek idea of democracy, as opposed to our representative.
If he
democracy.
sent people to Mars, though, would it become like a municipality, or would it become just people that are there for SpaceX? We work for SpaceX almost like employees. Because what if you find something in the ground that's very valuable?
No, I think the way he looks at it is he wants to be the transportation provider. So he's kind of looks at SpaceX as kind of like the Dutch East Indies company, and somebody else is gonna do this settlement.
Okay.
Like William
He's just the
Penn
guy
or whatever.
taking people to and forth.
That's
Okay.
interesting.
He provides the crew and the cargo, and he gets you there. But then once you're there, you're kind of on your own. You do your thing.
That's you.
Yeah, and somebody else builds the city. Comes up with the governance structure or whatever.